We can start, because I can do a little warm-up. Look at this. Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone's reading them? Bhagavatam? Good. Not yet. A young devotee just finished his graduate degree. He wrote me a very happy letter. I just finished reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Then tomorrow I'm going to start Chaitanya Charitamrita. Really happy. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Girivara Dhari Jasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamana Tira Vana Chadi Jamana Tira Vana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Girivara Dhari Jasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vana Chadi Jamuna Tira Vana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa His Divine Grace C.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. So a little introduction to our topic because we're actually ahead of time. At least my watch says we have 2 minutes before we're supposed to begin. So this is for our host family. The context of what we're doing this today. Uddhava is Krishna's cousin. Arjuna is Krishna's cousin and friend and devotee. But just as Arjun's mother, Queen Kunti, is the sister of Krishna's father, Vasudeva. Vasudeva has a brother named Devabhaga, and Uddhava is his son. They're about the same age, Krishna and Uddhava. But Uddhava, as you see from the painting, is very, very devoted to Krishna. He knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He, constant companion. Krishna would trust him with very confidential services like taking the message from Krishna to the gopis in Vrindavan. Remember that one? You too know that one? Krishna left Vrindavan. Akrura came and took him to take part in a bow festival, and Kamsa's idea was to kill Krishna, and it worked the other way around. So Akrura took Krishna from Vrindavan when he was just 12. And Krishna stayed in Mathura for some time. He informed his father, I'll come soon, but our relatives, because Nanda is also part of the royal family, the Yadu and Vrishni dynasty, so I should stay for some time and give association to our relatives, then I'll come back to Vrindavan. So you go back and reassure everyone I'll come. So Nanda went. Water? Need water? Okay, here's some more water. Okay, so back to Uddhava. Uddhava was sent by Krishna. Uddhava was sent by Krishna to take a message to the gopis. Uddhava was sent by Krishna. Get focused again. Uddhava was sent by Krishna with a letter. And as he was reading the letter to the gopis, Radharani was going mad, talking to a bumblebee, that whole situation. So he stayed for 3 months in Vrindavan, and then he went back to Mathura and gave report to Krishna what's going on in Vrindavan. And it was a long time. Krishna eventually, according to Gopal Champu, and according to Padma Purana, Krishna eventually went back to Vrindavan after the demons were killed, because that was really what he was concerned about, because he appeared in this world to protect the devotees and to annihilate the demons. So Uddhava was with Krishna in Mathura as soon as he got there. Uddhava was with Krishna in Dwarka as soon as he went to Dwarka. And Uddhava was with Krishna up until the end, when Krishna's departure took place, literally the very end. So here they are together in Dwaraka, and Uddhava, being intimate associate of Krishna, he knows Krishna is going to leave. And he's beside himself with grief. He didn't say you can't leave. He said, take me with you. Take me with you. And then he asked a question that results in something like 13 chapters. The question was how to situate myself in detachment, because I'm very attached, materially attached. And because of that material attachment, one cannot know you. So please help me become free from my material attachment. Who doesn't have material attachments in this world? So it's relevant question. The answer is very detailed. So that was all in chapter 6. Now chapter 7 begins Uddhava Gita. Just like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks to Arjuna. This is Uddhava Gita, Krishna speaks to Uddhava. And it's many of the messages in Uddhava Gita is just a further expansion or a graduate study, you could say, of the undergraduate study, Bhagavad Gita. Very similar points. So the starting point here, because of his question, is detachment. And the fruit or the purpose of detachment is attachment to transcendental, the soul, the supersoul, and the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, spiritual attachment, material detachment. So Krishna speaks about, because he asked the question, the chapter opens with Krishna's giving nice explanation of what detachment looks like and how to achieve it. And Uddhava says, easier said than done. It's very difficult to give up attachments. So he's probing further, and Krishna responds by telling a story. So it's a story within a story. And the story is something that was spoken by King Yadu, or a discussion between King Yadu and an avaduta Brahmin, like a madman Brahmin, one who makes no consideration of social custom, just was totally detached. And so King Yadu, by the way, Yadu is an ancestor of both Krishna and Uddhava. He's one of their forefathers, the ancestors in their family line. So King Yadu sees this young man, young in age, very attractive looking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but totally detached. And King Yadu is struck by the scene, and he speaks to the Brahmin. How did this happen? You know, you appear to be a madman or a dull person or something, but you apparently you're not either. So how did this come about? Where did you understand? You know, what's your detachment resting upon? And then the unfolding portion that we're in the middle of is the Brahmin says to the king that I've learned everything from 24 gurus. And each of the gurus are some feature or aspect of material creation. Some of it has to do with the elements themselves, the sun, the wind, water, fire, etc., etc. Some has to do with people. And at the end of this discussion is going to be pigeons. He learned some lessons from all these lessons of detachment. And then following the detachment opens the door for attachment to transcendence or the spiritual realm. Because as long as one maintains steadfast attachment to the temporary, then one will not be able to perceive. Even if one hears it, one will be able to understand it. One will be in covered consciousness. The illusory energy covers the consciousness of one who is attached to the temporary. So detachment is commonly, it's within the Vedic paradigm, detachment comes from Jnana and Vairagya. It's a couplet. There's Jnana, there's Vairagya. Wherever there's Agyan or ignorance, there's not Vairagya, it's attachment. So the attached souls need knowledge. So here's the Brahmana giving to the king, Yadu, knowledge that he received from nature. So he just finished a section of what he learned from the sun. There's one more verse about what he learned from the sun. No. Yes. 52. Okay. Actually, 52 starts with the new one, a new example. One of his gurus is Pigeons. And it's a long section. Covers most of them 3-4 verses. And this one is really long because it's telling a story. It's okay. We'll start with text 52. So it's the Avadhuta Brahman speaking to King Yadu. One should never indulge in excessive affection or concern for anyone or anything, otherwise one will have to experience great suffering, just like the foolish pigeon. He's going to tell a pigeon story. But here's the introduction. Bhakti Siddhanta is summarizing Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary this way. The lesson to be learned from the pigeon is indicated in this verse. One should never have too much affection for anyone, nor should one become too attached to anything, nor should one be overly attached to maintaining his dependence. Too much detachment is unwholesome. Too much attachment is unwholesome. So how to have the proper balance of attachment, detachment. That's, duty, connection with the Supreme, then it's going to vary from person to person. Okay, here's the BBT purport. The Sanskrit prefix ati, or excessive, indicates affection or attachment in which there is no Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Suradam sarvabhutanam. The Lord is the eternal well-wisher of every living being. The Lord is so affectionate that he sits in the heart of every conditioned soul and accompanies him throughout his endless wanderings in the kingdom of Maya, patiently waiting for the conditioned soul to come back home, back to Godhead. Thus the Lord makes all arrangements for the eternal happiness of every living entity. The best way for anyone to show compassion or affection for all living beings is to become a preacher on behalf of Lord Krishna and to assist the Lord in reclaiming the fallen souls. If our affection or attachment for others is based on bodily sense gratification in the name of society, friendship, and love, that excessive, unwanted affection, ati sneha, will cause burning pain at the time of breaking or destruction of the relationship. Now the story of the foolish pigeon will be narrated. A similar story is described in the 7th canto, 2nd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, told by Yamaraj to the mourning widows of King Suyagya. Seventh canto description is actually It's a story told by Hiranyakashipu to Hiranyakashipu's mother and relatives, his mother and his relatives, at the time of Hiranyaksha's death. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were sons of Diti and Kashyapa. And Hiranyaksha caused the earth to fall out of orbit. So Lord Varaha appeared and rescued the earth from the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. And when he did, Hiranyaksha had a battle with Lord Varaha. Lord Varaha finished him. So there was a funeral for Hiranyaksha. And when the funeral was taking place, the master of ceremonies was his brother, his elder brother, Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu was pacifying the relatives about mourning for the loss of the temporary. Interesting. And in the course of that, Hiranyakashipu, told the story of Yamaraj and the queens. The queens, had a king, and his name was Suyagya. And Suyagya died in a battlefield, and the queens are coming out in mourning. And a small boy came and said, "My dear ladies, mothers, what are you doing?" "Oh, our husband is gone." And then the boy told the ladies, the queens, a story about a hunter and pigeons. That's the reference. And it's similar. There's different parts, but it's too much attachment results in pain and even death. So we'll get to the story. Bhakti Siddhanta. You all know who is Bhakti Siddhanta, right? Yes? Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta. He writes the commentary. Every living entity is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord if he gives up the service of the Lord and engages in the service of anyone else for his own enjoyment. He will ultimately have to suffer, like the pigeon who will be described in the following verses. Next text is 53. And there's no purport, it's just the verse. There was once a pigeon who lived in a forest along with his wife. He had built a nest within a tree and lived there for several years in her company. The two pigeons were very much devoted to their household duties. Their hearts, being tied together by sentimental affection, they were each attracted by the other's glances, bodily features, and states of mind. Thus, they completely bound each other in affection. Purport, BBT purport. The male and female pigeon were so attracted to each other that they could not tolerate even a moment's separation from one another. This is called Bhagavat Vismriti, or forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord and attachment to dead matter. The living entity has an eternal love for the Lord, but when perverted, that love is manifest as false material affection. A pale reflection of actual pleasure thus becomes the foundation of a false life based on forgetfulness of the absolute truth. Far out, huh? Chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita, speaks of a tree with its... There's a reflection of a tree that's on the other side of a bank of pond or lake or something. So on the opposite side is a tree, and the reflection is an upside-down tree with the roots growing up and the branches going down. That's just a reflection. In that it's a metaphor to indicate this world is a reflection of the spiritual world. What exists here is but a reflection of what exists in the spiritual world. But it's just a reflection. It's not the real tree. It's not the real thing. It appears to be. So to the degree that there appears to be something here, we should know it's not the real something. The real something is in the spiritual realm. So when people become forgetful of their relationship with Krishna, then they accept the reflection to be the reality. And the reality is kind of gets checked out, all right, dismissed, or not so important, or maybe good moral instruction, but not necessarily, real. The real reality that this is a reflection of. So that's what he's saying here. A pale reflection of actual pleasure thus becomes the foundation of a false life based on forgetfulness of the absolute truth. Nice. Bhaktisiddhanta writes in his purport, as a wife and husband are naturally attached to each other, the male and female pigeon were extremely attached to each other, and in that way they enjoyed sense gratification. They were so much attached to each other that they could not bear separation from each other for even a moment. The main cause of such mundane affection and attachment is forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord. The living entity's affection for the Lord and their attachment to Him is eternal. When that relationship is disrupted, such pure affection and attachment is reflected in a perverted manner as affection for temporary objects of this material world. This creates a reflection of happiness in the form of forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord. And which covers just one more verse. Naively trusting in the future, they carried out their acts of resting, sitting, walking, standing, conversing, playing, eating, and so forth as a loving couple among the trees of the forest. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commentary, as soon as the conditioned soul forgets the Supreme Lord, he begins to act in a different way. And because of his enjoying propensity, he engages in activities such as sleeping, sitting, traveling, gossiping, playing, eating, simply for his personal sense gratification. However, the same activities are engaged in by the liberated servants of the Lord for his pleasure. Liberated devotees have no other business than serving the Supreme Lord. All their activities, such as, the list again, sleeping, traveling, and speaking, are performed with the aim of satisfying the Supreme Lord. The fallen condition of the living entities is due to their making a distinction between themselves and the Supreme Lord, who is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. We'll go one more verse. Text 56. Whenever she desired anything, O king, the she-pigeon would flatteringly cajole her husband, and he in turn would gratify her by faithfully doing whatever she wanted, even with great personal difficulty. Thus, he could not control his senses in her association. And the summary of that commentary, O king, the wife of the pigeon pleased her husband with sweet gestures, smiles, glances, and pleasant conversation. The BBT purport. It's not a inviting picture for household life. But this is the overly attached position. The word tarpayanti indicates that the lady pigeon was quite expert in seducing her husband through smiling glances and loving talks. Thus, appealing to his noble sentiments, she efficiently engaged him as her faithful servant. The The poor pigeon was ajitendriya, or one who cannot control his senses, and whose heart is easily melted by the beauty of a woman. Brahmana avaduta, this is the person speaking, the avaduta Brahmana, is giving valuable instructions by narrating the story of the two pigeons and the terrible distress they suffered by inevitable separation. If one's intelligence is not dedicated to serving Rishikesha, the Supreme Lord of sense activity, undoubtedly one will plunge into the nescience of bodily gratification. Thus, one becomes no better than a foolish pigeon. Now, many of the other sections, like, water and wind and fire and earth, have to do with qualities like the earth, tolerance, forbearance, and then features of the earth, a mountain and a tree, and air, the air of life, the air inside, the air outside. It sustains life and it purifies. Anyway, so these are largely traits or characteristics of a self-realized soul, to have these qualities. But when there's a reason, it appears to me, there's a reason why those purifying agents came first. But Uddhava's question is, yeah, but it's not easy to overcome attachment. So purifying, yeah, but it's not easy to let go of or overcome attachment. That's the theme. And so it's expressed in a number of different ways. And this particular example is excessive attachment. And so it's not a scare tactic, but it's just reality. When there's excessive attachment, discrimination is lost. Or say it the other way. When one has appropriate, dutiful, and even, loving attachment, but not excessive, then your intelligence is sharper. Supersoul, according to Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, that same one is the banyan tree that's upside down. In that same chapter, Krishna says, Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sanivishto. He's situated in the Rid, in the heart of everyone. Matak Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. From Krishna as Supersoul comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Knowledge from Supersoul. Remembrance from Supersoul. Forgetfulness from Supersoul. So when there's forgetfulness that's coming from Supersoul, why would Supersoul give forgetfulness? If you're too much attached to, in the spirit of too much attached to temporary enjoyment of the temporary, you have to forget Krishna to do that. So he gives forgetfulness. And once there's forgetfulness, it's hard to get out, like quicksand. How to get out? You move this way and that way, you're further in the quicksand. Because of attachment to the temporary. It doesn't go away so easily, just like saying, okay, let me out of here. I don't like quicksand anymore. It's the laws of nature take over. So again, this is Uddhava's question. I'm too much attached. So one of the ways to help become free from attachment is to understand, here's the consequence of excessive attachment. Forgetfulness of one's higher nature, forgetfulness of what real happiness is, and one becomes victim. Because along comes a hunter. And he doesn't hunt the mother and father bird. He sees these other little baby birds in the tree, in a nest, and he captures them in his net. So when mother and father come back with food for their children, the little ones in the nest are in a net. And the mother freaks out, and she tries to rush to free her little ones, and she gets caught. And then it goes on. When there's too much attachment, intelligence is covered. When there's sufficient detachment, intelligence becomes stronger. Jnana Vairagya. With knowledge, with detachment, knowledge becomes stronger. With stronger intelligence, detachment follows. And when detachment follows, then one has discerning ability better. Life has its problems. So many people become very engaged in problem solving, creating situations that then naturally have some problems, and then their intelligence is engaged in problem solving. And by that engagement of trying to be an enjoyer and having problems and trying to solve the problems and make it better, supersoul and one's spiritual identity become lost. I mean, they're still there, but to your conscious awareness, they're forgotten. And it then just becomes a struggle against the problems, the new, fresh problems, the new ways of trying to address them. And then life goes on and it's over, when the real purpose has been missed. The higher consciousness opportunity has been missed. So this is a celebrated section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Krishna speaking to Uddhava. It happens just before he departs, so it's really important. Extensive instruction for his dear devotee, how to stay attached to him even when he's not physically present before him. That's our situation. So it's important instruction. That's a reason why Bhakti Siddhanta made an exclusive commentary of the whole Uddhava Gita. There's a book this thick that's published just on his commentary on Uddhava Gita, because it's so important. We had a family the other evening, and nice couple, small son, and he was saying, it was an honest admission. My situation is, growing up, I bought into the paradigm, he didn't use that language, of becoming successful monetarily and in my career and education and this and that. And here I am, nice house. I would say, rather lavish house. And, and a nice wife and a nice son. And, the light went on for him, saying, there's something more than this. But the habit is so strong, I don't know how to overcome the habit, because I just go back to how to make more money and how to make, life situation comfortable for I and mine. My family, my parents, they were there too. So it's the metaphor is a pigeon or pigeon family, but it's not so distant from what people go through. Fortunate for him, the light went on. There's something more than this. But he didn't know how to get from where he was to the something more than this. So it's very relevant. Knowledge and detachment. Bhakti process itself gives rise to knowledge and detachment. There's a nice verse in Canto 1, Chapter 2 that says that. This is Sutta speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya, saying, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga, devotional service unto Vasudeva, has a result. If one feels satisfied, but another result is that causelessly knowledge and detachment Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janiyati Ashu Vairagyam. Vairagya is detachment. Jnanam cha, knowledge also. Yad ahaitukam. Knowledge of detachment arises from bhakti. However, bhakti means for Krishna's pleasure, and when one's mind is distracted by the temporary, you're not thinking Krishna's pleasure. You're thinking something else. Remembrance of Krishna becomes blocked by that thinking something else. And that thinking something else is the illusory potency, and that's what this is dealing with. In order to get from that situation that man was describing, it requires bhakti and association with devotees, so the bhakti process can grow. So here we are, living a life in modern society where there's a certain set of values, and it's not just modern society. Step back, and according to the Vedic picture, the whole of Bhumandala, this middle planetary region, is a place of fruitive activity. Above is Swarga, and below is the lower planetary systems, and even below that is hell. But so goodness, passion, and ignorance. And this is the realm of passion. It's in the middle. Fruitive activity. So that's the way of life for most people. That's what happiness is. Work hard. Do your duties nicely. And fruits will come, and enjoy the fruits with your friends and family and etc. And that's the program. And the Vedas come along and say, wait a minute, that's temporary. Antavatu palam teshan. It's temporary, limited and temporary. So go for that which is not limited and not temporary. That's the message of Bhagavad Gita. That's the message of the Vedas. Well, I'm a little too much attached. And that's what Uddhava is saying. And Krishna is saying, let me tell you a nice story. It will help instruct you, at least in this particular. What's the consequence of too much attachment? So you can't overcome the attachment. It leads to misery. The problem comes and you can't solve it. You rush into the situation and you perish also. I mean, it's not threatening or intimidating or something. It's just the way it is. Attachment, yes. Duty, yes. Do those for Krishna, yes. Offer them to Krishna, yes. For a devotee, the teaching of the Vedas is a devotee sees the world, the cosmic manifestation and paraphernalia and things and people as opportunities for service. It's paraphernalia for Krishna's service. And souls meant to let me assist them in Krishna's service. That's how a devotee sees. And the obstacle is our conditioning. It's exactly what this man said the other night. I bought into the paradigm, and off I went, and I did well. And now I'm on the treadmill. And how do I get off the treadmill? Even when I try to get off the treadmill, I'm on the treadmill. My habits are formed such that that's where my mind goes. That's where my intelligence goes. That's where my life energy goes. And I want, it's not satisfying. It's not sufficient. It's important. But it doesn't get a 10. What do I do? So the Bhagavatam is helping us. What do you do? It's exactly Uddhava's question. How to overcome this excessive attachment. This is Bhakti Siddhanta. Materialistic persons who, instead of accepting the Supreme Lord as the only master of their senses, think themselves to be equal to Rishikesh, engage in various activities in this world with the desire to gratify their senses and accumulate wealth. As the enjoyer, Pigeon acts whimsically to please the enjoyed Pigeon. Materialists are busily engaged in enjoying temporary material happiness with their gross and subtle bodies. The example of the male and female pigeon's happiness and distress has been cited to teach such materialists. The conditioned souls who maintain too much affection and attachment for material objects suffer in material existence just like the male and female pigeon. One more sentence and we're done for this midday here. This is Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, one of our acharyas, writes, whenever she desired anything, O king, her husband, with no sense control, would gratify her by faithfully doing whatever she wanted, even with great personal difficulty. So we'll continue next class on this topic, text 57. So we went a little bit further. There's some nice graphics. Here's some illustration one devotee did. One should never indulge in excessive affection or concern for anyone or anything, otherwise one will have to experience great suffering just like the foolish pigeon or pigeons. So, pigeon story. Prabhupada would often speak about learning things just from nature. He would see things and then explain, here's the lesson to be learned from the thing. I'll tell a Prabhupada story. It's a nice one. The first time I went to visit Jagannath Puri was I was a young brahmachari, and there was a devotee from our New York temple that had been living in Bhubaneswar for some time, assisting Gaur Govinda Maharaj, who was a wonderful devotee and translating all the Prabhupada's books from Oriya, from English to Oriyan language. He sat in a little grass hut and just did that service. So this devotee was taking us to the temples in Bhubaneswar, mostly Shiva temples, and explaining the connection between Lord Chaitanya visiting there and Jagannath temple and Jagannath Puri and so forth. And then he said, let's go to the zoo. He said Prabhupada, when he came, he went to the zoo. So we went to the zoo. And in the first cage in the zoo was a lion. It was an old guy, but, big. And he said, this devotee's name was Bhagavat Das. Bhagavat Das said, at the end of visiting the zoo, Prabhupada stopped, put his cane down, and said, what lesson did we learn today? Everybody looked at each other like... And so Prabhupada said, the lesson is, intelligence is stronger than physical brute strength. The lion is the king of the jungle, and there he is in a cage. For all of his strength and power and prowess, the intelligence of a human may be more powerful than all of his physical strength. And here's another one, another Prabhupada story, just seeing things within nature. This was, I was with a group of devotees on a morning walk in New York, and one of the places he went to was is called Battery Park. I don't know why it's called Battery. Maybe it has something to do with a battle scene or something. Anyway, Battery Park. And we were walking, and over on the left side there was a big pond. So Prabhupada tilted his head back, looked at the devotees and nodded his head, and off we went to the pond, off the path, right through the grass into the pond. And as soon as we walked to the pond, There were a group of ducks. When the ducks saw people coming to the pond, they all swam over. So then Prabhupada asked the devotees, does any of you have any prasadam? So somebody had some bread or something like that, and threw the little pieces of bread into the pond for the ducks. And Prabhupada was smiling and then walked, going on back to the walkway. Then he did the same thing, put his cane into the ground and said, what lesson did we just learn? Same. No one had any idea what Prabhupada was asking. And he said, the lesson is that the duck that quacks the loudest gets the bread. I looked around and off he went. Didn't even bother to explain. It was clear what the message was, but in this way, many, many things. He would see something within nature and take a practical lesson from it. And sometimes he would do that right in the midst of classes. He would even specifically say, one can learn important lessons in life just from nature, how to live your life. But unfortunately, many people are living unnaturally, and therefore they're covered in illusion and can't see how to act properly in this life. Now, ultimately, we need to verify lessons from Scripture, but still, like this Avadhuta Brahman, one can learn things and be guided. He was a self-realized person. And he was attributing his 24 gurus to pigeons and the sun and the moon and wind and water and mountains and so forth. Okay, let's see if there's some discussion on what we just read, or for that matter, anything at all that you'd like to discuss. You're looking at him and he's looking at you. Yeah, you have something?
I was just appreciating the thing. Nectar of Instruction, first text is all about controlling the senses, and it's all about engaging the senses in Krishna's service. So in today's section, getting the picture of the other side, like how forgetfulness of Krishna, forgetting oneself, the sense gratification is very easy. So just appreciating that connection.
Yeah. The Nectar of Devotion is a summary study by Rupa Goswami of what scriptures say about the process of bhakti. It's the Sanskrit is bhakti, rasa, amrita, sindhu. So it's sindhu, it's an ocean of bhakti rasa. And it's amrita, it's very nice. So that is the work, written product of study of the scriptures. So that's no surprise that what's in the scripture is in Rupa Goswami's writings and vice versa. His writings are rooted in scripture, and this is scripture that's spoken directly by Krishna. So it can't go wrong. It's quite special. Krishna's words are perfect. Anything that we may say, or anyone that's of this world is not perfect, because the source is not perfect. We're conditioned, but Krishna is not. I came across, just before coming here, a nice verse in Canto 10, Chapter 22. It's Krishna speaking to the residents of Vrindavan he's saying, if someone, mayi aveshita, if one's absorbed in me, one's consciousness, one's mind is absorbed in me, even if there is some slip, sensual weakness slip, not intentional, but just a circumstantial weakness, they'll not incur sin, and they'll not continue on with that sin, with that wrongdoing. I give my personal protection. That's coming from Krishna. So, that's very assuring. Doesn't mean, okay, now I have a license, I can be not have sense control, but if there is someone absorbed in Krishna and some weakness comes, they're protected. Similar to what's in Bhagavad Gita. Apichet sudaracharo sudurachar. Durachar, bad activity. Sudurachar, very bad activity. Apichet, even if someone does very bad activity, if they're bhajate mam ananyabhak, if they're engaged in my devotional service, it's undivided, ananya bhakti, undivided devotion. I take care of that person, I situate them again properly, I consider them saintly, you should also. Krishna is saying to Arjuna. That there's protection in being connected to Krishna, and there's every risk being not connected. Let's see if there's some discussion here. Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I have a question. You talk about the attachment and detachment, and what do you do to detach from things? Because I feel like it's very, very difficult task to detach with this many things.
Yes, it is. What you're saying is exactly what Uddhava is saying. So now the question is how to.
How?
Well, it's a combination. What's going on right here is, here's the consequences if you remain attached. So knowledge can lead to detachment. Not like just trash it, but appropriate engagement with the objects, whether it's a person or paraphernalia or whatever it is, workplace, career, etc., etc. There must be some to be dutiful in one's activity, but not overly. So then how to not be overly? But knowledge. And so there's different ways in which knowledge can be transmitted, but primarily it's through sound. Vedas is through sound. So reading Prabhupada's books will help you because it's recorded sound. And the nature of this sound vibration is by hearing it and hearing it and hearing it, it goes in. And then it's inside. And then how you see the world changes because there's something that's inside that's changed. It's not like you're a different person, but the coverings have been diminished and the original nature has been restored, and it's something that's conducting your life. So the how-to is sound vibration, and by sound vibration, consciousness is cleansed and lifted. It's gradual. So it's not like, okay, turn on the switch. It's okay, now I'm no longer attached. It's gradual. Something, I like the example of a dimmer switch. So some lights, most lights is off on, 1 or a 0, like the mind, 1 or a 0. our binary processor mind. But then spiritual life is not just on or off. It's more like a dimmer switch. And as through sound, through exposure to transcendental sound, because we're exposed to other sound, but by exposure to transcendental sound, it's the dimmer switch. Darkness is dispelled, light is increased. But it's not just here, it's here. And then you start to experience the world around you differently, because here is different. The same, what's outside you is the same, but how you experience it is different. Through sound.
Thank you, Maharaj.
That's the Vedic process. So we have so many ways, reading groups and classes and this and that stuff. There are ways, that sound can be, in a regular basis. Like things that we do that are good for us, we do them regularly. We don't just brush our teeth once a month. It's something we do every day. Things that are good for you, you do every day. So we do regularly. And as that sound vibration comes, cleansing, Chaita Darpana Marjanam, the heart becomes cleansed, and consciousness becomes lifted. And when consciousness becomes lifted, then knowledge and detachment. Gradual. Not like throw stuff away, but detachment. And then you just maintain what you need to maintain, and you don't go around filling up your house with clutter or filling up your life and consciousness with clutter. What's essential is fine, because you're using it in Krishna's service. That's, paraphernalia. Then there's people. Then comes the spiritual conception of the people. Here's your wife and 2 sons, so they're spirit souls. And ultimately they're going to be somewhere else, and so are you. And for some period of time you're together, family, and we're meant to serve one another towards the souls attaining the mission of life. That's what we do together as a family. I mean, we take care of the creature requirements and education requirements and those things. We do those things. But the higher purpose, don't forget the higher purpose. And that leads to then an appropriate level of attachment, not overly attached. When the light's on, darkness is dispelled. It's wholesome. It works. You have something? That's in the room.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful lecture. I sometimes feel like, I just so tired of the material things. At times I feel like, and don't feel like doing, some activities which I used to do. Is that real detachment or just laziness?
Or what's the other option? Is it real detachment or disgust or something?
Lazy, feeling just tired or lazy.
Oh. Probably it's a combination. Because we're conditioned souls, so it's probably a combination. But it may not just be lazy. It could be, I was expecting a taste, and after chewing and chewing and chewing, there's no taste. So it could not be necessarily detachment, like yuck. It's not really, there isn't taste. Like the example from the Bhagavatam is sugar cane that's already had the juice squeezed. You chew on the cane that's already had the juice squeezed. There's no juice. Who's going to, start chewing somebody else's bubble gum? It's no taste. One could chew out of habit or something, but it's no taste. Mm-hmm. people, anyway. So it could be at a number of things. The realization, but the real test of is it detachment is, where does your mind go instead? Let's say maybe the mind goes to, is there another activity or a different way of doing the same thing? And it's just a different way. It's just looking for some enjoyment of the senses contacting some sense object, or the sense of doership. Like, we know that one from little, do well in school because you be successful. So you compete and you do well in school. And then there's further and further and further and further and further. Like this man was saying the other day, I did it. I bought into the paradigm. I did really well. And I'm doing well monetarily, and nice wife, nice son, taking care of my mother and father, and nice house. So I don't. In his case, it's not lazy. In someone else's case, it may be something lazy. It's just really, it's not like he wants to throw it away, just chuck it all and become a mendicant or something. But move to a higher state of consciousness. So the real test of is it detachment is there attachment to the Supreme? That's chapter 5 Bhagavad Gita. The essence of detachment is attachment to the Supreme. And if it isn't attachment to the Supreme, then it's not detachment. It's just trying it in a different way. The same thing in a different way. Same thing in a different way.
Thank you, Maharaj. Just on the same line of thing, attachment to the Supreme. When I do my duties, like sometimes I feel like I think myself, I'm doing it for Krishna, but actually I'm not really doing it for Krishna at times. It's just for because my obligations, or it's just my duty, or something to fulfill. So how do I surrender everything? Like
you're
do
honest.
It for Krishna.
You're honest. I'll share with you something. I hope it won't be discouraging. There's a very nice lady who's lives in Palatine, and her son graduated from Champaign-Urbana and has a nice degree and nice job and a wife, and she has a grandchild, and it's et cetera, et cetera. Now her other daughter's in college, and so this is in a gathering with more people when it wasn't pandemic. She said, I have a hard time cooking for Krishna. She said, my whole life I've been cooking for my family. Now I know that I'm supposed to be cooking for Krishna. And I can try to, convince myself I'm cooking for Krishna, but I'm cooking for my family. So how do I transition from the routine of cooking for my family to cooking for Krishna? Similar question. But, she's been at this for longer than you. And it's not, so the transition is a heart change. It's not a behavior change. And it's purification. And it's similar to, not the same, but similar to this question your husband asked. Attachment to the temporary blocks attachment to the Supreme. So as much as I may try to do my duties for Krishna, being honest with myself, I'm still doing it because it's my duty, which is fine. It's a stage. So then the answer is quite the same. It's through sound. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra connection lifts one to Krishna connection, because they're representatives of Krishna, or Krishna, not different than Krishna in the case of the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. You're associating with Krishna. And by that association through sound, consciousness gets lifted to the Krishna connection platform. And it works. It's not just notional. It's for every person. And an average person. You have to be like a super person. Queen Kunti. You don't have to be Queen Kunti. You just be a person. And the process is effective.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Especially, well, two things. Especially when there's some eagerness for it. It's bhakti process is not a vending machine. Okay, there's the vending machine. I put in the coins, pull the lever, and down the chute comes, Krishna bhakti, attachment for Krishna. It's not. It's a devotional process. It's a personal relationship with Krishna process. So it's not just a matter of doing things like reading, but it's the eagerness to have that consciousness change, have that connection with Krishna change, instead of being in the doing my duty platform. I mean, it's better to do one's duty than not, but better than just doing duty is doing it for Krishna. So the eagerness to get there, and then the second is faith. The process is going to take me to where I want to go. You go to the airport or go to the train station, and you have confidence, if I get on the train that's going to such and such place, I'll get there. Otherwise you wouldn't be in the train station. So you better place your faith where it's going to bear fruit. So when you find that which will bear fruit, then you invest faith in that activity with eagerness. And you'll see progress. It won't happen instantly, but you'll see progress.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. We have something online.
First question is from Sri Radhika Mataji.
Uh-huh.
Sri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur said that the fallen's condition of the living entities is due to their making a distinction between themselves and the Supreme Lord. So, would you please clarify what is this distinction that is being referred to here, that is induce you to Krishna consciousness?
Which verse is that?
I think the first one, 52 or 53. The distinctions.
Here it is. This is text number 55. The fallen condition of the living entities is due to their making a distinction between themselves and the Supreme Lord, who is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Well, we certainly see a distinction between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. We don't see the living entity as the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Lord as the living entity. We see a distinction. So her question is how to properly understand this. The previous sentence is, liberated devotees have no other business than serving the Supreme Lord. All their activities, such as, etc., are performed with the aim of satisfying the Supreme Lord. The fallen condition of living entities is due to their making a distinction between themselves and the Supreme Lord. Now, it doesn't mean they should be considered absolutely identical, but it's, maybe it's the way that this is translated. In other words, what the Sanskrit is the Sanskrit, and Bhanu Swami has translated the Sanskrit into English, and maybe there's not a very careful translation from the Sanskrit to the English. That's one possibility. But it's the distinction sense is a disconnect between themselves and the Supreme Lord. Because when the connection between themselves and the Supreme Lord is made, then the part engaged in the service to the whole or the Supreme. That's my answer to the question.
This question is from Latika Bharadwaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj, how do we know that affection is excessive, just right or not enough in a situation?
Okay, well, the simple answer is remembering Krishna, forgetting Krishna. That's the barometer, or the litmus test. Excessive is you forget.
This question from Girivardhari Prabhu. Is there a way to know if my attachment crossed limits?
Same answer, same question.
Snehavalli Mataji was asking, as you explained 10th canto verse, my question is that is sense gratification sinful?
Well, there's pious and there's impious. Eating is gratifying the tongue. So there's modes of nature eating that's sinful. There's modes of nature eating that's goodness, and there's eating that's transcendental. And then you could say it's not, but that's not sense gratification, that's service. So it's not sense gratification. But on the other hand, it's satisfying the need to take nourishment, and you like certain foods, and so you particularly relish certain foods, and you may not particularly relish some others. Now that's not unconditional service, but it's satisfying the senses. Just like family life, it's satisfying the senses. But it's not sinful.
Sri Radhika Mataji was asking, among the many different ways of motivating persons, we want to stay away. In general, motivation by fear. What is the distinction between motivating by fear versus sharing the very clear negative consequences with the people, such as in this case, the consequence of attachment?
Well, a big part of the difference, the distinction, is the intention. If one is speaking simply because, through descending knowledge, this is the way it is. It's not intending to scare, it's just speaking the way it is. And so beware. I mean, like when you drink, don't drive. It could be a scare tactic. It could also be just a warning. And then someone else may do the same thing as a scare tactic. Anyway, so a lot of it depends upon the intention behind the speaking. Watch out. There's a dangerous curve ahead. Anyway, there's danger even in the royal, Prabhupada would use this phrase, there's danger even in a royal road. One could have an accident on a royal road. It's not a scare tactic, but it could be. Somebody could just want, another person or persons to just be always in fear, or particularly in fear, or to take advantage or something like that, manipulate. So it's the intention behind. And if it's just speaking knowledge for the sake of proper understanding of things the way they are, then it's not a fear tactic. That's it? How about you two? Anything? Nothing? How about you? Anything? No? Okay. So looks like we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, yeah. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari Madhava Kunjavi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari Madhava Nikhari Gopijana Balabha Girivadadhari Gopijana Balabha Girivadadhari Gopijana Balabha Girivadadhari Gopijana Balabha Girivadadhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Jadi Tiravana Jamuna Tiravana Jadi Tiravana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivadadhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivadadhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivadadhari Girivadadhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Shadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hari Vidagacharya Astatarasatasi Simad His Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gora Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is a second Sunday in a row where we're speaking about Lord Nityananda. And in case do you too know something about Lord Nityananda? Nothing. You know who is Lord Chaitanya? Yes. He says yes and she says no. Okay. You know who is Krishna? Yes. Well, Lord Chaitanya is a form of, well, let's go back. There's a nice verse in the biography of Lord Chaitanya's life that describes that the forms of Radha and Krishna are eternally manifest in two forms. Radha's on this side, Krishna's over here. Radha, Krishna, two forms but one entity. He's the origin or the energetic source, and she's the pleasure energy, energetic energy. Sun, sunshine. They're inseparable, right? You don't find shine without sun, or sun without shine. They're together. But in two forms. Radha Krishna, Pranaya Vikriti Ladini Shakti. Radha is the Ladini, or pleasure potency, Ladini Shakti of Krishna, but one entity. And when those two forms become one form, Lord Chaitanya. Who is Lord Chaitanya? Radha Krishna in one form. In the complexion, duty or luster of Radha, Radha's complexion or luster is what color? Like molten gold. Radha is golden in complexion. And Lord Chaitanya is golden in complexion. Gauranga. Gora means golden. Gora. And Anga means limbs. His limbs are golden in color. Gauranga. And his mood, his bhava, is the mood of Radha. Krishna, in the mood of Radha and the complexion of Radha, but Krishna. That is who Lord Chaitanya is. So you know who Lord Chaitanya's, who Krishna's constant companion is. Balaram, right? Balaram. Balaram, here's a nice painting. Oops. Where this is the deities of Krishna, Balaram, and Vrindavan. On our right, or on this side, Krishna's side, he's holding a flute, and on Krishna's right side is Balaram. Balaram is holding his left arm over Krishna's shoulder. He's whitish like snow, or like milk, whitish in complexion. Balaram, Krishna, Krishna Balaram. Those are the main deities in our Vrindavan temple. So when Krishna appears as Gauranga, who is over here on our right, Balaram appears along with him, constant companion, and his name is Nityananda. That's who Nityananda is. He's Balaram in Krishna's pastimes, and he's Lord Nityananda in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Why not? You know Bhagavad Gita, right? You know of it. You know what it is, Bhagavad Gita? Okay. The concluding instruction of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Do you know the verse? Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashami ma suchaha. Last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. You can look it up later when you get home. Text 66. Krishna says, I've described everything to you. Now, all those things are subordinate to one thing. What's that one thing? Mam ekam sharanam. Ekam means one. Mam is unto Krishna. Mam ekam sharanam. Sharanam means surrender. That's it. Surrender to Krishna. And everything else is subordinate to that one thing. Everything else is nice, but it's subordinate to that one thing. All other things are meant to help one achieve that one thing. That one thing is all important. So Krishna spoke like that. Conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. But then Krishna began to consider, after I depart is Kali Yuga, and people are going to be less spiritually inclined, and how will they even know how to surrender to me? If I come myself, I can teach how to surrender to me. I'll come in the mood of Radharani and show how to surrender to Krishna. That's Lord Chaitanya. And his constant companion, Lord Nityananda. Nitya means eternal. Nitya. Nitya means eternal. And Ananda means pleasure. Ananda. Nityananda. He's always happy. He's happy assisting Lord Chaitanya in showing the world how to surrender to Krishna. And the best means in this age of Kali for awakening that mood of surrender to Krishna is the chanting of the holy name. So here's a nice verse taken from the biography of Lord Chaitanya. It's the very second verse in the whole book. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanandao Sahodito Gododaya Pushpavantao Chitrao Sandao Tomo Nudao. I offer my respectful obeisances unto. So the golden complexioned one is on, with a golden dhoti, is on our right or his left. That's Lord Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And wearing the blue dhoti, that's Lord Nityananda. They are like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously. That doesn't happen. Sun and the moon don't arise simultaneously. The sun sets and the moon rises, the moon sets and the sun rises. They don't arise simultaneously. But like the sun, which gives so much light, and the moon is like Lord Nityananda. But it's said about Lord Nityananda that he's like a million moons. Very soothing moonlight. To dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. So this age, when Lord Chaitanya appeared, it's the dark age, meaning Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. A lots of quarrel, too much, and lots of hypocrisy, too much. So it's hard for people to find light in that age of darkness. But darkness is found through these two, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, and Nityananda. And the way that they gave light was by, of course, teachings, but the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where this is again in the blue dhoti, that's Lord Nityananda. Of course, this is a Bengali painting. Normally, Lord Chaitanya is with a golden dhoti. There he has a purple one. And next to him, with the white beard, that's Advaita Charya. So we honor these personalities because they're inaugurating the means for this age for achieving spiritual perfection, Yoga Dharma. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo, in this age of Kali, Kalo, Na Asti Eva, Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Gatiranyata, from the scriptures. In this age of Kali, there isn't an alternative to chanting of the holy name. So they propagated this chanting of the holy name very wonderfully in Navadvip. And I'm going to move on now with a very important event in Lord Chaitanya's life. When he was just 24, for Vedic culture, for someone to take sannyas when they're 24 is quite astounding. But he decided to take sannyas. Here's an illustration where he informed Lord Nityananda that was his plan. And you can see Lord Nityananda is sobbing. He's very sad because it means the people in Navadvip that have had Lord Chaitanya's association wouldn't see him again, or not likely not see him again. And they would be very troubled. So he was concerned for their well-being. What Lord Chaitanya decided to do before taking sannyas was to inform some of his five closest associates. And one of those closest associates was named Gauridas Pandit. Gauridas Pandit lived in Ambika Kalna, and when we go to Mayapur, we'll visit that place. We've visited there many times. It's a very nice place. You can get there by boat. It's really nice. You get on a boat and go up the Ganga and get off at the Ghat and go to Gauridas Pandit's house. So when Lord Chaitanya informed Gauridas his plan, Gauridas had a very special relationship with Lord Chaitanya. He told him, "You can't do this." What do you mean I can't do this? He said, "Well, I won't be able to live without you. So better you kill me. Then you can go ahead and do, because I wouldn't be able to live." So he was so very serious. He had a kind of intimacy with Lord Chaitanya where he could say things like that. And it was like, he was intense. So Lord Chaitanya said, he was with Lord Nityananda. The two brothers went together. And he said, well, I'll make a manifestation of a deity form of myself. And so when you see the deity form of me, you can see me and Nityananda. And so he manifested deities similar to his likeness. And so he said, okay, so we're going to go now. And Gauridas said, no. If the deities and you are the same, then let the deities go and you can stay. Lord Chaitanya said, all right. And Lord Chaitanya stood on the altar, and the deities started to leave, going out, as you see, like through this door, through the courtyard, and out the front gate. And Gauridas said, no, I can't ask deities to leave and you stay. You can stay, the deities can stay and you can go. So Lord Chaitanya said, okay. He got off the altar, the deities went back on the altar. And that went on several times. And then he realized the deities are non-different. There is a form of the deities. So the deities remained, and Gauridas, along with his brother Suryadas, they worshipped these deities to their heart's content. Now there's a very wonderful pastime, where Gauridas had a disciple. The disciple's name was Chaitanya. Nice name, right? Lord Chaitanya's name. Chaitanya Das. So while Gauridas went away, Chaitanya Das was asked to look after the deities, and he made a plan. On the occasion of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, because Lord Chaitanya had already made his appearance in the world, he decided to have a big festival in honor of Lord Chaitanya. And when Gauridas got back, it was too late. He already had this big plan. He really scolded Chaitanya Das. You can't make a plan like this without consulting your spiritual master. But it was too late. The plan was already made, and a big festival was scheduled out in the main public square underneath a humongous tree. The tree is still there, huge tree. And they had kirtan and prasadam and this and that, and it was really a loud, jubilant kirtan, so much so that the deities got off the altar and went to join the kirtan. And Gauridas, being an unusual personality, he had a stick in his hand and said, "Get back on the altar. I haven't even finished the offering yet." And they saw him running after him, so they ran faster than him. And he was shaking the stick and shaking the stick. And the deities, to escape the stick of Gauridas, entered into the heart of Chaitanya Das. He disappeared till the festival was over, then went back on the altar. So from that day, Chaitanya Das had a new name. His new name was Hriday Chaitanya. Hriday, Hrid means heart. Hriday Chaitanya, because he hid himself in Chaitanya Das's heart. So Lord Chaitanya finally accepted sannyas. And when he accepted sannyas, there was, Nityananda was with him, because they were constant companions. Nityananda, the one in the blue dhoti that you saw before. So, Nityananda tricked Lord Chaitanya. Instead of going to Puri, they went to the home of Advaitacharya. They stayed there for a week. Lord Chaitanya's mother, Sachi requested, "Don't go to Vrindavan, go to Puri. Krishna's there in Puri." So they went to Puri. And after some time, living in Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya visited for 2 years. He traveled around in South India, visiting temples and giving the holy name to people very freely. And when he came back to Puri, the devotees from Navadvip all came to meet him. It was time for Rath Yatra anyways. The messenger was sent and told them. So they came, and everybody came. But 2 years after that, Lord Chaitanya took, now that's with the shaved head, that's Lord Chaitanya with the shaved head, and Nityananda with hair. In the background you can see the Jagannath temple. Lord Chaitanya said, I have two requests for you. Don't come with all the devotees every year to join me in the Rath Yatra festival, but you stay in Bengal, because I appeared in this world to give the holy name, but my mother has asked me to stay here in Puri. So can you please do this service for me? Go throughout all the land with several associates I'll give to you to assist you, and distribute the holy name widely to everyone. Pure love of God through the pure holy name. And there was one other request. The second request was, you should get married. And Lord Nityananda said, oh no, all of your associates are primarily, they're sannyasis, and you want me to get married. and you want me to leave you. So it's like, you're punishing me. Why should I want to stay with you. I have my mission, and I want you to be married because that's the way I see you. That's all the reason he gave. So Lord Nityananda, being very obedient to Lord Chaitanya, this is Lord Nityananda again, there's details and details of how he traveled with these associates, and they were avadutas. They were not guided by normal social custom and behavior and speech, and they were so immersed in ecstatic love of God that they were hardly recognizable in their conduct and their activities. And so, what's that noise? Huh? It's what?
It came to an end. Won't come again.
Okay, won't come again. Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So that was the first part. I mean, I'm not spending a lot of time. We discussed these points, in last Sunday. Lord Nityananda and his associates followed the instructions of Lord Chaitanya and widely distributed the pure holy name all over the land. And the second was, he visited the home of Suryadas Sarakale. This is a photograph of his house from the outside, the actual place where he lived. And very interesting sequence of events took place. Listen, it's very interesting. Lord Nityananda was, he was an avaduta. He didn't follow any social custom. He was born the son of Hadai Pandit. He was Brahmin by birth. But by consciousness, he wasn't bound by anything. He would do very, very, very unusual things all the time. And everyone was used to it. So when he went to the home of Suryadas Sarakale, remember, his brother is Gauridas Pandit. They're very, very elevated Vaishnavas. And he went straight to Suryadas Sarakale's home. He received him very nicely because he and Lord Chaitanya were very dear to them, to their family. And as soon as he sat down, Lord Nityananda said, I'd like to have you give your daughter in marriage to me. And Suryadas said, how will you maintain a wife? You're like a madman. And I mean, we love you and everything, but we haven't done any horoscopes, and we haven't done any consulting, and he didn't give a yes. He gave a, wait a minute here. And Nityananda got up and left. And so the two brothers, Suryadas and Gauridas, they started discussing what to do. They heard the ladies wailing from inside the house. What happened, so when the men found out, Janava, that's his daughter's name, Janava eventually married Lord Nityananda. So Janava had fallen to the ground, unconscious. It looked like an epileptic fit. Her eyes were rolling around. Foam was coming from her mouth. They brought doctors. The doctors couldn't figure out what it was and what to do. If it's an epileptic fit, we don't have any medicine to treat it. And so they all started wondering what to do, and why did this happen. And Gauridas said, Suryadas's brother, Gauridas said, I think a great offense was made. And this is a reaction to a great offense. The offense was made to Nityananda. Yes, he's an avaduta, and who knows how he'll take care of a wife. But an offense was made, and we have to correct it. Because otherwise we may lose Janava. So they went out of Suryadas Sarakel's home. They went into the marketplace. They found Lord Nityananda seated under a tree, just chanting Krishna's name very loudly. They approached him, fell at his feet. Lord Nityananda embraced them, and they said, big offense, big offense, big offense. Please forgive us. However you're going to maintain our daughter, we don't know, but you marry our daughter. They spoke in such a way. You're actually the Supreme Lord, so you can maintain anybody. We don't know how it's going to happen. Our daughter is just our daughter. And how is the Lord going to marry our daughter? But you want to, so it'll be done. There was so festivities began. There's a detailed description of weddings. There are lots of details describing weddings. And when it was the time before the wedding, where there was a large feast, Janava had a sister. Janava's sister was named Vasudha, and Vasudha was serving prasad to all the guests. And when she came to Lord Nityananda's plate, she was serving, and as she was serving, her sari fell off her head. So she didn't want to stop serving. According to the biography, she manifested 2 extra arms and covered her head and continued serving. Lord Nityananda turned to Suryadas and said, I'd like to marry her too. So it was a double wedding. That's just an artist's drawing. And after they married, they went to what then became the headquarters or the ashram of Lord Nityananda. It's still there in Bengal. Commonly, it's Kadadaha or Kardaha. That's spelled in 2 different ways, but it's the same place. So that's where they lived for. He still continued traveling to give the holy name, because that was the other service. After some time, a son was born to Vasudha. So there was a seminal descendant of Lord Nityananda. Virabhadra was his name. And we spent some time during one of the other classes visiting Ekachakra. Ekachakra is the name of the place where Lord Nityananda was born and where his son, Virabhadra, made his residence. Virabhadra in Ekachakra. So this is in Suryadas's home. There's now a deity, a murti, that's Suryadas and his 2 daughters. Or another time of the year, Suryadas and his 2 daughters, Janava and Vasudha. In the back of Gauridas Pandit's home and the temple, there's a big terrace, and this is the place where they sat after the wedding. And you see on the left-hand side, there's a little shrine there, and inside the shrine is the mark of Lord Nityananda's footprints. Yeah, I think I wanted to remove this. This is the image of their taking sannyas. Lord Chaitanya's taking sannyas. So here's the 2 lords. Again, on our right, in golden color, with a golden colored dhoti. That's Lord Chaitanya. On our left, or Lord Chaitanya's right, wearing the blue dhoti, that's Lord Nityananda. So these 2, Gora, Nitai. Gora is the golden Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda. So in many of our homes and temples and so forth, it's very common that there's Gaura-Nitai deities. By worshipping these 2 lords, one gets the benefit of a closer relationship with the holy name. Now, if do you happen to have your sound amplification system? There's one of our Sanskrit scholars made a translation of 8 prayers, or Ashtaka, glorifying Lord Nityananda, and then it was put to music. You got to go to the other side. Can you go to the other side? Right here. So I'm going to play this. It's very, very nice. You'll see the words and you hear it's a nice melody. And I hope it works.
Sarachandra-bhrantim Spuradamalakantim Gajagatim Hari-premonmattam Dhrita-paramasattvam Smitamukham Sada-ghurnannetram Karakalitavetram kalibhidam Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajanatarukanndam Niravadhi Rasanamagaram Svajanagana sarvasvamatulam Tadiyeka prana pramita vasudha jahnavapatim Sada premonmadam paramaviditam mandamanasa Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajanatarukanndam Niravadhi Shachisono preshtham Nikhila jagadishtam sukhamayam Kalau majjajjivo dharana karanodama karunam Hare rakyanadva bhavajaladhi garbonatiharam Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajanatarukanndam Niravadhi Aye bhratarnirnam Kalikalushinam kinnu bhavita Tatha prayaschittam Rachaya yadanaya sataime Vrajanti tvamitham Saha bhagavata mantrayati yo Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajanatarukanndam Niravadhi Yatheshtangre bhratah Guru Hari Haridhani Manisham Tato vasansaram buddhitaranadayo mayi laget Idam bahu spotair atatiratayan yapratigriham Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajanatarukanndam Niravadhi Balat samsarambo nidhiharana kumbhodbhavamaho Satam shreyasindhunnati kumudabandhum samuditam Khalashreni spurjat timirahara surya prabhamaham Bhaje Nityanandam भजन तरुकन्दं निरवधि नटन्तं गायन्तं हरिमनुवदन्तं पथि पथि व्रजन्तं पश्यन्तं स्वमपि नदयन्तं जनगणम् प्रकुर्वन्तं सन्तं सकरुणदृगन्तं प्रकलनात् भजे नित्यानन्दं भजन तरुकन्दं निरवधि सुबिभ्राणं भ्रातुः करसरसिजं कोमलतरम् मिथो वक्त्रालोकोच्छलितपरमानन्दहृदयम् भ्रमन्तं माधुर्यैरहमदयन्तं पुरजनान् भजे नित्यानन्दं भजन तरुकन्दं निरवधि रसानामाधारं रसिकवरसद्वैष्णवधनं रसागारं सारं पतितततितारं स्मरणतः परं नित्यानन्दाष्टकमिदमपूर्वं पठति यस् तदङ्घ्रिद्वन्द्वाब्जं स्फुरतु नितरां तस्य हृदये तदङ्घ्रिद्वन्द्वाब्जं स्फुरतु नितरां तस्य हृदये
Interesting instrumental accompaniment. Sounds like Western music. But it's very sweet. No. Okay. So that's a little bit of discussion about Nityananda Ram. I decided to focus on his first deity manifestation, Gaur-Nitai. There's another incident where Lord Chaitanya did something very similar, where one of the other devotees who Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda went to visit to inform that he was planning to take sannyas, there was a similar response from that devotee. And Lord Chaitanya then manifested a deity of himself and Gadadhar, Gaur Gadadhar. And that's in Champaka Hata, nice place in Mayapur. So there's a nice temple of Gaur Gadadhar there. There's some nice details. Those are the first two examples of deity worship of Lord Chaitanya. And the very same deities are being worshipped to this day. So we have some time to discuss whatever you'd like about Lord Nityananda. He's particularly compassionate. We know this nice verse about Lord Chaitanya. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaur Trishe Namaha. When we offer our foodstuffs to Krishna, that's one of the prayers that we say. And his associate, Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya is most munificent, and even more munificent than the most munificent is Lord Nityananda. He's very kind. Very, very kind. And freely giving the name of Krishna, even to the Jagais and Madhais or any people. is in without consideration, just on the order of Lord Chaitanya and for the glorification of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada would speak about this in terms of our activities as followers of Lord Chaitanya is to assist Lord Nityananda. We will not get the mercy of Lord. It goes like this. To get the mercy of Krishna, the best way to get the mercy of Krishna is through the mercy of Radharani. If Radharani puts in a good word with Krishna, you're in good with Krishna. So how to get the mercy of Radharani? If you get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, you've got the mercy of Radharani. You got the mercy of Radharani, you're in good with Krishna. How do you get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya? By getting the mercy of Lord Nityananda, you get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And thereby get the mercy of Radharani, and thereby get the mercy of Krishna. So how do you get the mercy of Lord Nityananda? You assist Lord Nityananda. We are to assist Lord Nityananda in approaching anybody and everybody, the Jagais and Madhais, little ones in this world. So many people, when we approach them with, please take the holy name, or please take this Bhagavad Gita, or please take transcendental knowledge, they don't say thank you. They say some other things. But that's okay. Following Lord Nityananda's footsteps, that's okay. Please take the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Please take the holy name. We, in other words, there may be some unpleasant response. That's okay. We're there in the mood of service. We don't become pushy or obsessive or something. But we want to be instruments. We want to be pleasing to Lord Chaitanya by being pleasing to Lord Nityananda. That's our safety. That's our protection. It'll protect us from the illusory energy. It'll bring us into the inferior energy, or spiritual energy, excuse me. That's Radharani's, the Bhakti. Bhakti is expansion of Radharani. Bhakti Devi is an expansion of Radharani. So our Bhakti will increase by making that effort to assist. And somehow we're far away from having loving attraction for Krishna. Sometimes people speak like that very honestly, and it's true. But the softness of heart will come in this way. That's the benefit of the mercy, the special mercy of Lord Nityananda. So we don't often hear about. So I think it's nice that 2 Sundays in a row we're speaking about Lord Nityananda, because it's very special in the life of devotion given to us by Lord Chaitanya and his followers. The mood of Lord Nityananda is very important in our life. So any discussion? Yeah.
I've been just thinking, these Avadhuta activities can turn away people, like in case of Lord Nityananda's father-in-law. So why is he purifying us? Like,
What's that? I don't understand the question.
The Avadhuta activities, like Lord Nityananda's actions are like Avadhuta.
Yeah.
So then it can turn away the people. Like,
He wasn't concerned. Because he was fully transcendental. No, he was doing what he was doing because he was fully transcendental. We don't question why he does what he does. He did what he did. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would try to correct him sometimes. Don't do like this, without getting into details. And he would just smile. He was in this total spontaneous stage of love of God. He just did whatever he did without any social convention consideration. And like it said, most people would not understand. They would understand something. He's not ordinary. But if anyone were to criticize because he's not ordinary, they would have a big problem. But he just was who he was. Avadhuta. Rishabdev also became Avadhuta. We heard this morning, or that Dattatreya was like an Avadhuta. People didn't understand him, but Jad Bharat was an Avadhuta. People didn't understand him, but filled with transcendental knowledge and able to deliver people. So it doesn't mean that everybody that's just devoid of any social convention, they're an elevated soul. They can just be mad, literally. But there are persons who are, Nityananda being one, so immersed in love of God that social convention meant nothing to him. Love of God meant everything to him. And he was, a very strong giver of that. Anything else?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
You're on.
As you are mentioning about this, we don't hear much about Lord Nityananda's mood or his activities and mercy other than the Nityananda Trayadashi time. I was just wanting to request you, how can we cultivate this on a regular basis, Guru Maharaj?
Just read. It's there. Read Prabhupada's books, it's there. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's there. And then discuss. I mean, you know this. There are devotees that are doing this at these days. And they're going, wow. Because they're very sweet. It's hard to understand because it's spontaneous love of God. But it's very sweet. And his mood is in a very wonderful mood. Giving Krishna, giving love for Krishna, giving the pure holy name. We're all chanting. We're all not so much at the pure holy name stage. So that this will help us. But it's for people when they're ready for that. And not everybody, distribute that to the people at large and they'll not understand it at all. So we give them, karma yoga and gyan yoga and simple. And you're not the body.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I had a question about our life in Goloka. So I was wondering, do we have our own duties and lives in Goloka and it's just revolving around Krishna, or do we just do services for Krishna there?
You want to know, is there deity worship there? That's your question?
No, how are our lives there? Is it just our lives in this world, but more revolving around Krishna, or?
What lives are like is revealed when Krishna performs his pastimes. That's what life is like. But there's different moods. Therefore, there's different places. And three principal places, and even within those places, subdivisions. So, Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. So life in Dwarka is opulent. Much less is known about life in Mathura. Krishna didn't spend too much time there. But, it's the royal family and, all occupations, weavers and florists and this and that's, because Krishna met some of them. Kubja, taking care of fragrances and scented oils. And, so there's merchants. The agriculture was on the outside, that's Vrindavan, and then the agriculture people would bring their agriculture products to the marketplace in Mathura. So they have urban life in Mathura, so it's more polished. Not as simple. So there's those three different moods. And then within those moods, there's subsets. And what do you do there? It's described what they do there. More in Dwarka, and more than that even in Vrindavan, because there's like so much of the 10th canto is Krishna's activities in Vrindavan. But what we do there is depending upon your rasa and your relationship with Krishna. So that's what it looks like.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Is there some part of that attracts you?
Yeah, I was just like wondering, because I thought that when we go to Goloka, it was mostly just doing services for Krishna.
Yeah, but they're all doing services for Krishna.
Yeah.
But they, like the florist was making garlands for Krishna. But he had his home and family, so he was making garlands and floral products for the people. He was a Vaishya. He sold flowers, flower merchant, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, okay, because I wasn't sure about that part, like if we had like homes like
Yeah.
in this world. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they have homes, they have families, they have occupations, they have varna and ashram. It's there. That's, they do their activities according to what's natural for them, according to their varna and ashram. The ladies do this, and the men do that, and the agriculturists do this, and the administrators do that, and the brahmanas do other things, and they abide by varna ashram. But Krishna's at the center. So in one sense, what you said, yes, but we don't. The modern life, as Kali Yuga progresses, things go further and further from varnashram. In many ways. But so they're just locked into varnashram, but Krishna-centered. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
All right.
Famous reader of Bhagavatam. First canto by himself.
First canto.
Reading it by him. He read it himself. Moving on second canto and forcing his mom to read along with him.
Okay. Do you remember anything about Balaram from first canto? Balaram. First canto.
I think his name was mentioned somewhere.
Yeah, his name is mentioned. Because the reason I'm asking that is Balaram and Nityananda are the same. Balaram and Nityananda are the same. Krishna didn't take part in the Kurukshetra battle. He was a chariot driver, but he didn't fight. Correct? Yes. So Balaram also didn't fight, but he wasn't a chariot driver or anything. Instead, Balaram went on pilgrimage to holy places. He went on pilgrimage to holy places. And one of those holy places he went to, I think this is in the first canto, he encountered one devotee who was reciting the Puranas. And that devotee who was reciting the Puranas, when Balaram entered into that place where he was reciting the Puranas, everyone offered their obeisances except the speaker. And so Balaram was upset. You're not qualified to speak from the Vedas. You don't even offer your respect to the Supreme Lord. So he took a blade of grass, just a blade of grass, and touched it to his heart. And it pierced his heart, and he died instantly. Remember reading that? First canto?
No, I wasn't there.
Is it there? First canto? You don't remember? When I'm pretty sure, because his son was Sutta. Sutta took his place. Sutta was the son of Romaharshan. Romaharshan is the one that got. So in Canto 1, Chapter 5, Canto 1, Chapter 5, no, Chapter 4. Canto 1, Chapter 4 describes the division of the Vedas, Vyasadeva writing the Vedas down. And he entrusted the Purana portion to Romaharshan. And then in the very, very, very beginning, Canto 1, we were introduced to Sutta. Sutta was Romaharshan's son. And he became the speaker after his father got kusagrased and knocked out. The sages didn't know what to do. Balaram said, well, I can bring Romaharshan back to life if you want. He said, no, you're the Supreme Lord, but what do we do? He said, well, his son, the son, Sutta, represents the father. So the son can speak. So that Sutta spoke. That's in the first canto. Pretty sure.
Yes, I read that.
Now you remember that. Okay. Romaharshan and Sutta Goswami. So that's Balaram. That's what Balaram went on pilgrimage. Lord Nityananda also went on pilgrimage all over India for years, for 20 years. That was a big pilgrimage. He left home. Nityananda left home when he was 12 years old. He went with a sannyasi. A sannyasi was traveling to holy places in India. And so he went with him. And when he went to all different places. He spent a lot of time in Vrindavan. And he was just waiting. What was he waiting for? He was waiting for Lord Chaitanya to start his Sankirtan pastimes. And as soon as he did, he went to join him. Nityananda. Nityananda was 12 years older than Lord Chaitanya. 12 years older. And he left his home, which is a different place than where Lord Chaitanya took his birth. But he left his home right at the time that Lord Chaitanya was born, around the same time. And for 20 years went to holy places, like Balaram did. Because the same person. Just that the Leela is somewhat different, but the mood of love and service is very similar. So when you read about Balaram in the first canto, second canto, other cantos, you can understand that's Nityananda also. Therefore it's Nityananda Ram. Balaram and Nityananda Ram. Ram. Anything else? You have something?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So before coming to ISKCON, I didn't know anything about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here to give the Yuga Dharma. But why did he choose to come in Channa Avatar? If he has revealed his identity, probably many people would have, come to know who he is, right? Then many people would have accepted the Yuga Dharma.
Well, I could say you have to ask him. But one of the reasons was he was coming as a devotee of Krishna. He wanted to show how to, just like this Bhagavad Gita question, how to surrender to him. So he wanted to show, here's how to. So how can he be Krishna showing himself how to surrender to Krishna? So it was hidden. However, he did reveal himself to some devotees and then instructed those devotees, don't tell anyone, keep this confidential. But obviously they told somebody because we know about it. So after he left, or towards the end of his pastimes, it became more known. And just the other day, we were reading, the other evening, we were reading this pastime in Navadvip. Before he even took sannyas, he had a pastime one evening where he showed everybody his divinity. Correct? Mahaprakash Lila. So, why conceal? So he could take the mood of his devotee of himself. When people would say, sometimes people would say, oh, you're the Supreme Lord. And he'd put his hand over his ears and go, Vishnu, Vishnu, and jump in the Ganga for purification. Because it's blasphemy to call a jiva Vishnu. So he was playing the role of a devotee of Vishnu or devotee of Krishna. That's the hidden.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. And he was revealing the highest of the rasas for the jivas. The highest of rasas is Braja Prem. And even amongst Braja Prem, the highest of the rasas is Madhurya Rasa. So you can't, it had to be hidden. It was the mood of Radha and the complexion of Radha. Not the Supreme, but the devotee of the Supreme.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, I think anything online? Okay. Prabhupada ki jai. Now I understand there's going to be kirtan for a while after. So we're going to, distribute Mahaprasad and pack up, and you stay for kirtan. Masked kirtan, pretty nice. Everything's okay? Yeah. Cool. Lovely, right? Very much the same, or?
Yeah, I think we're doing the 4-day hybrid schedule now, when we're supposed to go to school. Yeah, 4 days. I need my phone. Bring that way. Okay. Okay, we'll start now. Hare Krishna. So we'll just read the translations.
Today, in honor of Lord Nityananda, we are going to be singing 2 bhajans. Okay, fine. Thank you. The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are a shelter where one will get the soothing moonlight not only of one, but of millions of moons. If the world wants to have real peace, it should take shelter of Lord Nityananda. Unless one takes shelter under the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, it will be very difficult for him to approach Radha Krishna. If one actually wants to enter into... Is this unmuted? Okay, because somebody's texting me. If one actually wants to enter into the dancing party of Radha Krishna, he must firmly catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Anyone who has not established his relationship with Nityananda Prabhu is understood to have spoiled his valuable human birth. Such a human being is actually an uncontrollable animal. Shastras are strong for our benefit. Because he never uttered the holy name of Nityananda, he has become merged into so-called material happiness. What can his useless education and family tradition do to help him? Being maddened after false prestige and identification with the body, one is thinking, oh, what is Nityananda? What can he do for me? I don't care. The result is that he is accepting something false to be truth. If you actually want to approach the association of Radha Krishna, you must first achieve the mercy of Lord Nityananda. When he is merciful towards you, then you will be able to approach Radha Krishna. Therefore, you should firmly grasp the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. So by this, one more, okay. The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are not illusion. They are a fact. One who engages in the transcendental loving service of Nityananda is also transcendental. Always try to catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. This Narottama Das is very unhappy. Therefore, I am praying to Lord Nityananda to make me happy. My dear Lord, please keep me close to your lotus feet. So this is our famous bhajan that we all love. Different images, different pictures of Lord Nityananda's lotus feet here. Definitely, we all sitting together in front of our lordships in the temple would be much sweeter and happier. But here we are just connected on YouTube. So utility is the principle right now. So we're using this avenue to sing. Nitai pada kamala Koti Chandra Sushitala 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 Je chaya jagat jura Je chaya गत जुरा हेनो निताय भीने भाई राधा कृष्ण पाइते नाय हेनो निताय भीने राधा कृष्ण पाइते नाय दृढ़ा कोरी धारो निताय पार दृढ़ा कोरी धारो निताय पार ते संबंध नाही जात वृत्ता जन्म गेलो तार ते संबंध नाही जात वृत्ता जन्म गेलो तार ते पशु बोरो दुराचार ते पशु बोरो दुराचार निताय ना बोलिलो मुखे माजिलो संसार सुखे निताय ना बोलिलो मुखे माजिलो संसार सुखे विद्या कुले की करिबे तार विद्या कुले की करिबे तार अहंकार मत होया निताय पाद पाशरिया निताय पाद पाशरिया असत्य रे सत्य कोरी मानी असत्य रे सत्य कोरी मानी निताय करुणा हाभे ब्रजे राधा कृष्ण पाभे ब्रजे राधा कृष्ण पाभे धारो निताय चरण दुखानी धारो निताय चरण दुखानी धारो निताय चरण दुखानी धारो निताय चरण दुखानी निताय चरण सत्या ताहरा सेवक नित्या 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 ओ निताय पादा सदा करो निताय पादा सदा करो आशा हो निताय पादा सदा करो आशा सदा करो आशा নরোত্তম বড় দুঃখী, নিতাই মোরে করো সুখী। নরোত্তম বড় দুঃখী, নিতাই মোরে করো সুখী। রাখো রঙ্গা চরণের পাশ, রাখো রঙ্গা চরণের পাশ, রাখো রঙ্গা চরণের পাশ। রঙ্গা Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Nitai. One more very soon coming. So the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, we heard that it gives it's like cooling as millions of moons. Now we'll see how Lord Nityananda gave joy to this earth by walking on Mother Earth and distributing the holy name in Nadia. I'm sure many of us know these bhajans. We almost sing this repeatedly every Nityananda Trayodasi, but they never feel, they're ever fresh. So we'll sing again together. Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. And some of us who don't know the language, it's all written in Bengali by our very wonderful, powerful acharyas. So we are setting up in a minute. There's some connection issues, seems like. We are having a technical Nityananda Mahajan. In case if this connection is not going to work, we have our phones rescue. So the Bhajans is Nadiya Godrume, Nityananda Mahajan. Okay. We will start. Okay. Let me read the translations by the time, hopefully. Okay. In Nadiya Godruma, the great soul Lord Nityananda has opened a marketplace to sell the holy name to the conditioned souls. O faithful people, O faithful people, O my brothers, by the Lord's command, I ask this charity of you. Please chant Krishna, worship Krishna, and learn and teach about Krishna. Chant Krishna's name without offense. Accept Krishna as your mother. Accept Krishna as your father. Accept Krishna as your wealth and your life. Give up all sins. Make Krishna your whole world. Be merciful to all souls. Chant Krishna's names. That is the essence of all religion. So kindly pull up in your devices Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. I'm sending. Okay, so we'll start. Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. पाटियाचे नाम हाटा जीवेरा कारा 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 श्रद्धावान जान है 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 जान है प्रभु आज्ञाय भाई मागिए भिक्षा, प्रभुर आज्ञाय भाई मागिए भिक्षा, प्रभुर आज्ञाय भाई मागिए भिक्षा, प्रभुर आज्ञाय भाई मागिए भिक्षा। बोलो कृष्णा भाजो कृष्णा, करो कृष्णा शिक्षा, बोलो कृष्णा भाजो कृष्णा, करो कृष्णा शिक्षा, बोलो कृष्णा भाजो कृष्णा, करो कृष्णा शिक्षा, भाजो कृष्णा, करो कृष्णा शिक्षा। नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजन, नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजन, पाटियाचे नाम हट जीवेरा कारण, पाटियाचे नाम हट जीवेरा कारण, श्रद्धावान जान है, श्रद्धावान जान है, श्रद्धावान जान है, श्रद्धावान जान है, पाटियाचे नाम हट जीवेरा कारण, हो पाटियाचे नाम हट जीवेरा कारण, अपराध शून्य होए लोह कृष्ण नाम, अपराध शून्य होए लोह कृष्ण नाम, कृष्ण माता कृष्ण पिता कृष्ण धन प्राण, कृष्ण माता कृष्ण पिता कृष्ण धन प्राण, कृष्णेरा संसार कोरो छाड़िया न चार, कृष्णेरा संसार कोरो छाड़िया न चार, जीवे दोया कृष्ण नाम सर्वधर्म सार, जीवे दोया कृष्ण नाम सर्वधर्म सार, हो जीवे दोया कृष्ण नाम सर्वधर्म सार, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Nityananda Ram, Jai Nityananda Ram, Jai Nityananda Ram, Jai Nityananda Ram. Jaya Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram, Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Shri Shri Nityananda Ram ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. So just an announcement that our festival team lead, Sumangala Mataji, requested me to announce. She wanted to express her big thank you to the festival decorations team and the Kirtan team. Festival decoration team members are Prema Kishori Mataji, Sunita Mataji, Lakshmi Mataji, Meera Mataji, and Chandana Mataji, and Jyotirmaya Mataji. So we all did not personally go to the temple and take darshan, but we all would have gotten the pictures of the deities, so we can see the beautiful decoration. And thank you to Jyotirmaya Mataji and Chandana Mataji for Kirtan, and also Chandana Mataji also sponsored flower decorations. Thank you everyone for participating in this wonderful evening, hearing Nitai Gaur Katha, and participating and joining for the Sunday Feast Talk and the Bhajans. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you. Hare Krishna. You didn't stream? Sumangala Mate will be extremely upset with me. She really wanted to announce. She wants to give gratitude,